2025, and today's video is all about fall fun. So if you're attending my event this month virtually or in person, welcome. Thank you so much for participating in this event. I truly appreciate it. And we are going to go through all the projects. If you are participating virtually, this is where you'll find the how-to stuff. And if you're coming in person, you wanted to get a sneak peek or maybe a little extra education so you're better prepared for class, thank you for watching the video. So let's talk about some basic tools that you will need. You will need either glue dots or scotch tape for attaching ribbon, adhesive. I like to use the liquid adhesive, dimensionals, paper snips, and I like to use the Take-A-Pic tool. So, and then each project, if you looked at the PDF, you'll see that you need some stamps and inks. And you can always stop the video and grab those as we're going along. I'll kind of point out what I'm using, but use what you have. The first thing you're going to find when you open your kit is you got a little present. Yours will be completely full. I have used some of these on the projects. So these are antique pearls, and they're in the mini catalog, and they are gorgeous. So enjoy those. You'll have a lot left over after you finish the kit, so you can use those on other projects. Okay, let me open mine up, and I'll talk to you about this very first project. Okay, this is a fallish card, and I thought it might be really good for Thanksgiving or a fall birthday or a fall thinking of you or sympathy, whatever you need in your card stash. It uses the Sign Design Bundle, which is a new bundle that is in the mini catalog. So it's a punch bundle, one of my favorites. So of course I had to have it. And it's nice because you can use it for Christmas or you can use it for fall projects or Halloween. And then you can also just use this banner all by itself and put your own messages in there. So it's pretty fairly easy to use and can be used for lots of different projects. The Designer Series paper is from the Floral Impressions paper pack, which I believe is an online exclusive. And you're going to find when I'm doing my sample, my paper is just a tad different. I only had enough sheets for everyone coming, and then for the sample, I had to use something just slightly different from the same paper pack, a little bit different. Okay, so let's open up our kit and kind of get started. There's lots of little things in here, so be careful. One nice thing about this class is all the embellishments are on your sheet, so you don't have to worry about finding little tiny rhinestones. Okay, don't worry about this. If you've attended my classes before, you know that I try to use paper, waste not, save not. So you've got 2 punch outs already on here, so don't worry about that. It's going to get covered. So this is Garden Green and Darling Duckling, which is one of the new in colors. And then the ink that I used is Garden Green. So you might want to grab that. Okay, let's start by doing some gluing. So we're going to glue this Garden Green layer to the Darling Duckling layer. And then we will glue the DSP down, and that'll cover up those holes. So this does, like on some of your projects that are super thick and stuff, it does reduce the weight a little bit, and that might help you with postage. But mostly it's just about saving a little bit of cardstock that's wasted. Nobody's going to see it. So, okay. Now these, I punched 2 out, and then I just kind of made them as the layer. So I'm going to glue them down, and then we will get to the next part of it. And you can also, if you want to really pop this up, put dimensionals on them. But I've been trying to keep my dimensionals to 1 layer so the post office doesn't try to charge me for the extra thick cards. Okay, so that just kind of gets centered up. Okay, now you have your other Darling Duckling piece. So now you can just stamp a sentiment in here if that's what you have. I don't think too many of you have this bundle. And then I'll show you a few ideas to kind of jazz it up a little bit. So this I actually use the stamp set on, and I used the two stamps together, Season of Thanks with the leaves on it. I'm just going to do this different so you can kind of have some ideas of how you could do it if you don't have that bundle. So I'm going to use a Hugs stamp in the middle. I have been sending out Thinking of You cards like crazy this month and last month, so I'm super low on them. So I'm going to try to get myself kind of stocked up. Okay, so there's that. Okay, now if you want to jazz this up a little bit, you can do several different things. You could find a stamp to stamp around the outside. A cute little leaf would be really nice. You can just dip it in your ink pad a little bit and kind of distress it that way. You could take a sponge and add even more distressing on it. Really, it's up to you what you want to do with that. But it looks kind of plain, although we're going to put the pearls on it, and so that'll add a little bit. So totally up to you what you want to do with that. All right, let's put this away and get over here to the ribbon business. All right, so what I like to do on this ribbon, because you need to have it taped down or glue dotted down, but you don't want any of that to show on your card. So I like to attach it directly to the punched piece and just kind of even it up. And then I like to use Scotch tape. But you certainly can use glue dots. And this way you don't have any extra Scotch tape. It's all hidden on the back of the punch out, and you don't see that when you turn it over. Okay, now I'm going to trim this up a little bit because it doesn't look very nice. Kind of ragged edge. And then this one I'm going to just even up a little bit so they're a little bit closer in size. Okay, now we're going to put a couple dimensionals back there, and it goes on your project. Okay, and then we'll put a couple of these guys on here, maybe like 3. And we'll do maybe 1 of each size just to give it a little more variation. If you have a Stampin' Blend or any permanent markers, you could color these in with a green, and then it would pop maybe a little bit more. We're going to actually do that on some of our other projects. Okay, there, we're done. Boom. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Get these, set these to the side here. Okay, here is our next one. And this one you're going to need a basic black or tuxedo black, one of your black pad in other words, a sentiment, and some sort of a floral. So I use the Charming Day bundle on this, and that's where the floral came from and the sentiment. I think we all have lots of different floral stamps, so I'm sure you can find something that will fit on your piece. Now this one does have a lot of pieces in it, so when you open it up, be careful. And it is a fun little fold. Again, you don't have to worry about any embellishments falling out. This one I used a black Sharpie to color that in. So I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Okay, let's get our pieces kind of organized here. All right, so we've got our designer series paper. This is the Charming Day. Actually, not Charming Day. It's called Bloom Impressions designer series paper, and it goes with the Charming bundle, which the Charming bundle is an online exclusive. I think it came out in September. It hasn't been out too long. And if you're wondering how to find these online exclusives, they are on my website. If you go to my website, debnailerstampinup.com, and then you press on Shop Now, and then you can find the tab for online exclusives. So this, I think, is a really pretty fall thanks for being you, or a nice sympathy card, which is another thing that I'm running low on. Or you could make it into a Thanksgiving card, whatever you need in your card stash. I'm going to do sympathy because that's another one. I've already mailed out 2 this month, and I've got another one I got to do. So I know I'll be low on those. And I prefer to have those made when I need them rather than having to make them and think about why I'm making them. Okay, so we'll put that away. All right, now we've got that glued. Now you find a little fold here, so you want to fold that back. And then you'll find this layer, which I've already dry embossed for you. And this is called, I believe, the Eyelet folder. It is in the annual catalog. And our colors here are Timid Tiger, which is, again, one of the in colors for this year. And I am not a huge orange person, but I really like this color. So then we'll just glue this to this side over here. And what you might want to do, so you don't have to worry about putting glue in the wrong spot, is just make a little square, a long square on the actual piece. And don't go too far over because you don't want the glue to seep over. And then this just kind of gets lined up here. Okay, by doing that, then you don't need to worry about, do I have glue on the wrong side over here? Because you don't want any glue over here. Okay, now we have our sentiment piece. And we can attach that. You can attach it with a dimensional, or you can just glue it flat down, whatever you want. Okay, then we have this small white square, which is intended for you to use for your floral. And I did die cut these, but you can fussy cut them, and I'm going to do that for you right on the screen, just because I don't know how many of you have the Floral Charm bundle. I don't recall it being on a lot of orders, so you may have to use a different floral that maybe you don't have a die for. Now, we're going to color this in a little bit, and I would recommend doing that before you fussy cut it. Yeah, that gives you a bigger piece to work with. And we are using Timid Tiger, the in color marker, and we are using Old Olive. And speaking of markers, they are being retired by Stampin' Up. So if you haven't gotten a marker like the new in colors, you might want to grab them while they're still available, because once they're gone, they're gone. They're not going to be making them anymore. As long as you keep your markers tips in good shape, you can refill them by buying a reinker. Mine tend to last a long time as long as I don't use them too much in class. And some tips are not to push down too hard, because that will make the brush wear out faster. If you don't have Timid Tiger, pumpkin pie would look good with this. Any orange, perfect peach or peach pie. And then the green is olive, Old Olive. And then I'm not coloring the center in because we're going to put one of those pearls in it, so it's going to get covered. But you can color that in if you prefer. And if you want to know how to refill your markers, I'm happy to share a couple tips with you. The way I really like to refill them is take a shot glass, drop a few drops of reinker into the shot glass, and then just set the brush down into the reinker in the shot glass, and it'll just suck it right up. You can also pull these ends off and refill it that way too. You have to be careful. They don't take very much ink, and that's a little bit messy, so I kind of like the shot glass prep over over that. But whatever you like to do. Okay, we're going to use one of the bigger ones. And I'm just taking a black Sharpie. You want to leave it on the embellishment plastic, because otherwise you're liable to get black in the middle of that flower. Okay, we'll let it dry for a second. While that's drying, we'll just grab our little stem here, and then we're going to fussy cut this. Okay, fussy cut 101 is that you want to turn the paper and not the scissors. If you make your cuts that way, then you don't get ugly like cut marks. When we very first started fussy cutting, like, oh gosh, 30 years ago, back in the olden days, before we had dies and punches, you know, in order to get shapes or to get images cut, we would have to fussy cut everything. And I was really frustrated with that when I began stamping, because my pieces always looked really ugly. Well, it was because I was turning the scissors, not the paper, and so it makes an ugly little cut mark. So just turn the paper instead of the scissors, and then you don't get that cut mark, and you'll be much happier. And it's kind of funny, when I was younger, I didn't really like coloring, and I didn't really like fussy cutting. And it's because I think I was working and busy raising a family, and now I enjoy these things because I have more time, and they're kind of peaceful. So you'll see me doing a lot more coloring than I would have been doing like 20 years ago. All right, we got that. Okay, now we just need to figure out where we want to lay this and get that off of there. Okay, so we're going to pull this off and put it right over to the middle. I'm using the putty end. Sometimes I use the spatula, but lately I've been liking the putty end. Okay, and then we got our little greenery, so we just have to figure out where we're going to stick that. And it can go wherever you like, depending on your sentiment. Again, you want to be careful not to get any glue over here. So I'm going to put the dimensional directly on the area that I want this to be on. Okay, so there's no glue over here, so it's not going to get stuck. And then I'm going to pop this back here, and I'll just put a little glue on the stem and the edges. You could put this on a dimensional too if you wanted. Okay, and again, we don't want that glue on the orange piece there. Oops, I'm getting it on my thing there. Okay, all right, there we go. Okay, so project number 2, done, boom. Let's move on. These things aside. While I'm doing that, here's a sneak peek. We got another fun full card coming your way. And this one uses the Labeled with Love, which was a bundle, I believe, in last year's annual catalog. It carried over, so I've got the punch that goes with it. It's not a bundle anymore, but you can still order both of them. All right, so this one's just folds up like this. It's kind of fun, a little different. We haven't done anything like that for quite a while. So we'll pull everything out. And then this designer series paper is also from the Bloom Impressions designer series paper. And the dimensionals for this card and the other one are also in the PDF if you want to make any additional projects. Okay, so let's get this, kind of get some stuff glued down. And you got to be careful here. You don't want to glue this down until you've glued this piece to it. So let's put our DSP on it. And I think this can go either direction. All right, and then you can either use tear tape or glue back here. And you know what? I think I'm going to grab tear tape because that I think will be a little bit easier. I don't know about you guys. I have all this tear tape because the paper pumpkin kits are always so generous. So I always have tons of it to use, and I kind of forget about it. It's really great for 3D projects, boxes, and gift bags and things like that. It's where I tend to use it more. But it works really good on cards too, and so this is a good place to use these. All right, then you just kind of center it up. Okay, and now we can glue that to the card base. And the color on this is Pecan Pie, which I thought was kind of fallish. So we've got a fall birthday card, or you could also make this into a Thanksgiving, or a sympathy, or a thank you, or thinking of you, whatever you need in your card stash. Okay, then we have these little vines. When I finished this project initially, I thought, oh, this is kind of boring. And then I stuck these on here, and I was like, oh, it's so much better now. And I think these are from the Charming bundle. Double check the PDF. I don't have the die set here because it's in the other one. And I don't want to take the time to look that up when it's in the PDF, but I think that's where these vines came from. So you just need a little glue on these, or even a little glue dot if you don't like glue or you don't have glue. And the ink that I'm using on this is Berry Burst and Pecan Pie, but you could use black as well because there is black in the flowers, or early espresso I think would look good too. Okay, let's put that up. Okay, now you have your label punch. So if you have the Labeled with Love, and I know quite a few of you do, then you can use the outline and then whatever stamp set you want. And you could actually go this way on it if you wanted to have the Enjoy Today or You Are Loved. I'm going to actually make this into a Thanksgiving card because I don't have too many of those. And I'm going to use my ink spot because that's what I have out. And I'm doing this opposite. So this is Pecan Pie on the label and then the Berry Burst on the inside. I just kind of wanted to see what this looked like. If it maybe looked a little more fallish and maybe a little less feminine. Oops. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but I got my finger in there. So we're going to turn it over. Well, yeah, I was wondering if I could hide it with that, but no, I don't think so. So let's turn it over and stamp it again and see if we can get a better image. That's one thing I really like about stamping is that you can almost always fix your little boo-boos. Try not to touch it this time, Deb. Okay, now I have this stamp, and this is actually a retired stamp that I got from my friend Lynn. I just realized I need to put it on a block. And if you did the paper pumpkin this month, then you just got a pecan pie spot. So if you don't have the ink pad and you're doing this virtually, you do have the spot for this. So that's nice. And no, I didn't plan that. I have no idea. Well, I think I did know that it was a pecan pie spot, but I didn't plan my project around that. Okay, and then we can take and put a couple of these little antique pearls. I use a medium and a small one this time. And we have lots of them, so we can use 3 if we want. But nah. Yeah, sometimes less is more, you know? Yeah, less is more today, for me. If you have more room, my greeting takes quite a bit of room, so if you have more room, then you might be able to squeeze that on. Okay, and then I pop that up with the dimensional and just put it in the middle of the card. Are you guys liking the fun folds that we've been doing? We've been doing them, gosh, since last fall or last spring. I have been in the mood for them. So we just keep doing them. Some of them are, you know, we've done before, but you haven't done them for a long time. Okay, that one is done now. And now we're going to move on to our sunflower card. Okay, so this one uses Crush Curry ink. And then I've got an early espresso spot. And this stamp set is an older one from a paper pumpkin kit that we had a couple years ago. I absolutely love it. So I keep dragging it out because it's so good for this time of the year. So pull this out. And you'll find there are a lot of little spots because I punched those centers for the sunflower in here. Now, if you don't have this paper pumpkin set, don't worry. You can use any flower that you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sunflower. And you're just going to randomly stamp it all over the white card base. And I used Crush Curry ink. So ink this guy up. And I always like to stamp off. Try to get one in the center, but it's not really going to matter because the sentiment's going to cover it. I kind of try to start with, you know, one in each corner and then just fill in a little bit. Or don't. It's your project. You can do whatever you want. Okay. So this is kind of old school. It's kind of how we used to make our designer series paper. We'd randomly stamp all over the project. Okay, this and this get glued together. This is for your sentiment. The Sending Autumn Wishes is also from a previous paper pumpkin. I find my paper pumpkin stamps to be so useful when it comes to sentiments that I save all of them now because they have really different sentiments than what's in the annual catalog or the mini catalogs. So this says, in Sending Autumn Wishes Your Way, which I can put Happy Thanksgiving on the inside if I want, or it could become a birthday or a thinking of you, and I am going to put Happy Thanksgiving on the inside. And again, I use the early espresso. And I'm just going to go ahead and get that on the inside. I don't hardly have any Thanksgiving cards made up. And I don't send a ton of them, but I do send a few. Now, these little guys, if you have the stamp set, then you can go through and stamp each one of them. If you don't, and you have a flower that these fit in, then a way to kind of embellish these would be just to take a spot and distress them, not embellish, and just take it directly to the punch, and look, it just brings some color in there. So I always like to show you alternate ideas because I realize, you know, not everybody has all the supplies that I've used. So I want you to have options, and I don't want you to be frustrated, and I don't want you to think, oh, now I need to order that, especially if it's something that's retired and can't be ordered. I try not to use a lot of those, but I really do like my paper pumpkin stamps, so those you'll see often brought in. And I think that's good because I do have a lot of paper pumpkin subscribers, and so it shows you different ways to use those stamps that you're getting each month. Okay, now you'll see that circle runs off a little bit, so I have two choices. Take my paper snips and trim it off, or just leave it. I'm going to just leave it. It's not bothering me. I probably should have glued this down before I did that, because these might move. I have to be kind of careful. Okay, I'm going to let that kind of set up and dry and talk to you about these pearls. So what I did on these was I took a Stampin' Blend. This is the Mocha marker. It's actually a really old one. You'll need a dark blend or a dark permanent marker. And we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. And I did the smaller ones. You just color those in. You could use a black Sharpie too. Okay, and then we'll let those dry for a minute. You cannot use a regular marker. They're water-based, and the minute you touch them, the color will just wipe off, and you'll be frustrated because it'll be on your fingers. So you have to use either a blend or a Sharpie, or if you have another form of a permanent marker. Okay, now we're going to stick this on this, and oh, yeah, okay. And then we'll move these all, put them where we want them. If you have any little ink boo-boos anywhere, this is a great way to fill those. They're small, so they're kind of sticking to my Take-A-Pick tool. And I don't want to put my fingers on them because I don't know how much ink I have on my fingers. So you can do more or less, whatever you would like. And there you can see I'm just really randomly placing them wherever. This might be a place where I would want to use my spatula instead of this. But we're almost done now, so I'll just deal with it. Let's see, where do we want this last one to go? Okay, all right, now that gets glued to the card base. Since I've stamped this inside, I always want to check and make sure I'm going in the right direction here. Have you ever finished off a card and realized that you glued it and the sentiment is upside down? Yeah, that's really fun. So then you have to make a liner for them inside. It's fixable. Oh, I could have put one of those little dots on here, but I didn't. Okay, so there's our sunflower card. And let's get these things put away, and we'll move on to the next project. Okay. This one uses the new, from the mini catalog, Peaceful Greenery 3D embossing folder. And then it uses the dies from the Peace on Earth dies. And I wasn't going to get that folder, and I saw so many beautiful things done with it, and I got it, and I love it now. So when you open up your folder, you're going to find those two little flowers, so be careful with that. And then you've got the dies and the embossed piece. Okay, so before you glue anything down, let's get that ribbon on there. because that needs to get attached to the back before you glue it down. And this is again where I used my tape. Yeah, my color on this project is Cajun Craze, which I think is a fabulous fall color. Okay, all right, that's done. So now we can glue that and glue it to the main piece. I love how these dies fit in the middle of this folder. Almost all my Christmas cards that I made at my retreat a couple weekends ago, I used this folder on. And it's got some doves in it, and it's just a really awesome folder. Okay, on this you can slide it over, or you can slide it on top. I'm going to slide it under only because, and I probably should have glued it on here before, I want to see more of the ribbon. So probably would be helpful if you would glue that in on before you put your ribbon on there. All right, and then we have the other one, and little flowers. I'm going to go ahead and move those little guys over. I'm going to try my spatula and see if that works a little bit better than the other end. And it does with this size. Okay, those are all done. Now I got to figure out what sentiment I want to put on here. This is one that was in the paper pumpkin. And I think it's nice. You could tie it with a Happy Thanksgiving in the middle. I'm going to actually try. So this is an old stamp set that my friend Lynn lent to me. And I thought it might look really cute in the center here. And then we can go this way with the card. I might need to re-ink this stamp pad. It's pretty light. Let me see if I got a Cajun Craze spot and I can just move on. Yes, yay for spots. Get this re-inked before class. I save all my paper pumpkin spots. They work really well for like small sentiments, and like when I'm traveling, I love them for that. And they're totally re-inkable, so if you have a re-inker, you can just keep filling them up. Okay, let's get that turkey in there. Yay, oh, that's so cute. Thank you, Len. Okay, so now we're gonna put that in here. I can see it's a little wet, so I'm gonna actually wait for a minute or two. And you know what I'm gonna do just for fun is I'm gonna go ahead and stamp the outside of the envelope. Because it's so cute. Okay. Okay, so this would make a nice fall birthday card. Thinking of you. Obviously Thanksgiving. Oh, we want these to go on the side, the outside, because of where we're laying the ribbon. I'm going to leave that there, but I wouldn't advise putting it there because they don't stick to the ribbon as well. Okay. All right, now we need a couple little flowers that we're going to put up at the top and the bottom. Oh my goodness, that's really cute. I might have to make some more of those. I love it when I can pull out an old retired stamp and bring a fresh new look to it with like the folder here. Okay, all right. Let's get one more project. You have 6 this time. All right, now we have this cute little Halloween bookmark. And it goes together pretty easy. So first thing you want to do is glue the DSP piece to the basic black. And then you have this little label. And this little label is actually a new punch. There's a new bundle coming out that looks like this. It's got the banner and then a little kind of arrow thing and then another half banner. And it goes with a new stamp set. So this is an online exclusive that will be available next month. It's called Banner Sayings, and it also is the new packaging. So this is completely different. We don't have the cases anymore. These are flat. They'll take up a lot less space and they take a lot less weight. And so this is my first new packaging and the way things are being done now at Stampin' Up. So if you haven't been following my blog or my Facebook page, it was announced, gosh, about 6 weeks ago that Stampin' Up was going with all photopolymer stamps and new packaging. Okay, let's get these put on, and I used a couple dimensionals to pop that up. Okay, now you're going to need a little punch here. I used a 1/8 punch. You could probably use a 1/16. If you don't have one of those punches, you can use a needle or something like that. You might even be able to use the end of the pokey. You're just trying to get a hole in there for the ribbon on the bookmark. You could also, if you don't want to use this as a bookmark, you could leave the hole off and then just mount this on a card or a little gift bag. So what you're doing is you go through this way, through the back. And then you bring it up, pull yourself through that way. Don't pull too hard because you will break your paper. And then I just tied a knot so it wouldn't come undone. And there is the bookcase. Okay, all right, well, thank you so much for participating this month. I hope you have a lot of fun with your projects. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. You all should know how to reach me. You can text me, email me, or give me a call. And if you haven't checked your texts lately, there is an invite out for next month's class called Christmas Fun. We'll be doing what I call half and half class. So it'll be half 3D giftable kind of things, our annual calendar that we always do, and then 3 Christmas cards. Some of them I'll try to make so that they're can be used for something else, because I know a lot of you like to either do your own thing on Christmas cards or you're not mailing Christmas cards anymore. So I'll look for some ideas that maybe will be a little bit easier to turn into sympathy cards or thinking of you or whatever. And then that'll be the last class for 2025 studio class. I'll still do those of you that attend my MBE class once a month. I'm still going to be doing that in December, but there will be no studio class in December. The weather is always really iffy, and I'm also traveling. So I'm going to be gone for some of the beginning of December. Anyway, hope you guys have a great time with your projects. A happy Halloween, and if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. Until next time, take care.